It's good to be back. So, as I mentioned in my disclaimer, I'm going to be covering some pretty sensitive topics in this video, so please watch at your own discretion. When I decided that I wanted to make a video about the LGB Alliance, of course, the first thing I did was go straight to their website. The LGB Alliance were formed in 2019 and became a registered charity 2 years later. For those who are unfamiliar, they're a gay rights group. They focus only on the rights of gay people, lesbians, and bisexual people. The group were formed in response to a letter which basically questions Stonewall's dedication to lesbian rights based on their transgender policies. Stonewall are a major UK charity who are dedicated to helping LGBTQ people have more rights. The letter stated that there must surely now be an opening for a new organisation committed both to freedom of speech and to fact instead of fantasy. And so the subject of this video emerged from the ashes. Part 1. Facts and Myths. Whilst exploring their site, I encountered a tab labelled Myths. Now, the interesting thing about this tab is that they haven't actually labelled any myths, only facts. The only two of these facts which interested me were these two, which were conveniently written right next to each other. LGB Alliance supports trans rights and sex is binary. Two statements which, in my opinion, are contradictory. The entire existence of the LGB Alliance is not in support of trans rights. I mean, they even say themselves that they exist to support the rights of those who are not heterosexual. They don't do anything in support of trans rights, so why write that on their website? It's obviously not a response to people like me who call them out. I mean, actions speak louder than words, and the actions of this organisation are very clearly not in support of trans people. Their Twitter bio literally says, "We promote the rights of lesbians, bisexuals and gay men as recognised by biological sex." The LGB Alliance seem to have this all-consuming obsession with a person's biological sex, and they reject the commonly used terms AFAB and AMAB, which mean assigned female at birth and assigned male at birth, respectively. They say instead that sex is observed at birth. So they're basically saying that genitals are the gold standard marker of someone's sex. Which brings me on to the second fact I mentioned. Sex is binary. Now, anyone who is even slightly aware about gender-based science knows about the existence of intersex people. Intersex people are defined by the Cleveland Clinic as people who have genitals, chromosomes, or reproductive organs that don't fit into a male/female sex binary. That's that fact shattered. Though on that same page, the LGB Alliance do recognise the existence of intersex people, though they state that only a minority of people do not have genitals which match that whole male-female sex binary. So, is it genitals which make a person one sex or the other? Not according to Cleveland. Also not according to men, or penis owners as known to this organisation, who have uteri or ovaries. What am I talking about? Well, there was an article released last year by The Mirror about a Chinese man who had intermittent blood in his urine, and when he finally went to the doctors about it, he found out that he was actually having periods through his dick because he didn't have testes inside, he had a uterus. He was having periods, but he had a penis. So, was his subsequent hysterectomy gender reassignment surgery? Maybe not, since he still has his willy. My point is, sex is not and has never been binary. There are so many possible variations in the human body when it comes to reproductive organs, genitals, gametes, hormones even. And hormones are a major one. Many women, myself included, have or have had problems with hormones. So back in 2020, and this is personal here, I had a little bit of an issue where I wasn't making enough estrogen. Estrogen is like major female hormone. It's the one that like peaks during ovulation, you know, like important stuff. So I had a few symptoms which sort of led me to think something was a little bit up. I went to the doctors and they said like, look, like this really sounds like you've got low estrogen. And I was like, okay, because I thought that only happened to women like during the menopause or whatever, you know. So I got topical hormone treatment to replace my lost estrogen, and eventually things sort of settled and went back to normal. Now, I identify as a cis woman. According to the LGB Alliance, I have all the right bits. But in 2020, I wasn't making the right female hormones. So, did I temporarily become a man? Of course I didn't. So the real myth here is the claim by the LGB Alliance that sex is binary. It simply is not. They're speaking sheer nonsense. In fact, intersex people are not even rare, with approximately 1.1 million people in the UK alone being intersex. That's 1.7% of our population, which is the same amount of the population who have psoriasis, and nobody says that's rare. Part 2. A woman is an adult human female. The LGB Alliance can claim that they're not anti-trans all they like, but just a quick scroll of their Twitter feed shows this to be false. They're clearly in support of someone named Kellie-Jay, whose entire Twitter feed is based off her identity as an adult human female. Trademark. And her fight for the safety of women and children, which is a common distraction tactic used by transphobes for some reason. As I'm preparing this video, King Charles is going through his coronation. And this tweet by the adult human female shows her blatant anti-transness in full 4D high-def Technicolor. I mean, the last line alone is dripping with bigotry. A trans woman is not a man playing at being a woman. She is a woman. She's not playing a role like Big King C is today. One of my personal favourite pathetic arguments to laugh at is the trans women are perverted men using women's toilets argument. So the adult human female quote tweeted this tweet by a trans woman who I would say is very feminine looking. She's definitely cis-passing. Had a wee scroll through the comments and I found this infuriating response, which insinuates that this woman going to the toilet is some sort of fantasy because she might get hit on by men. I clicked on the profile of this individual and, not surprisingly, she's affiliated with the LGB Alliance. This reply is stupid in too many ways, not least of which the fact that, as a woman, the original poster will want to, and is well within her rights, to use the women's toilet. She's not going to go to the men's toilet and get hit on by men. And I mean, I'm not going to put words into her mouth here, but I would imagine that she doesn't want anyone hitting on her when she's going to relieve her bladder. Against my better judgments, I ended up reading through all the comments on the original tweet, and oh my god, some of the responses, and a scary number of them were from people who had some reference to the LGBTQ+ community in their Twitter bios, which leads me to the conclusion that the hatred of trans people by other marginalised groups is a bigger problem than I first thought. Now, I'm not going to deny that there have been reported attacks of transgender women attacking women in women's toilets, but the opposite is also true. This article in The Cut details a story from 2019 where 2 cis women were arrested for assaulting a trans woman in a bar bathroom. I also came across this article in Them reporting the assault of a trans man by a cis man for using a women's bathroom because he was forced by the rules of the facility to use the bathroom based on the sex he was assigned at birth. It seems trans people just can't win. Part 3. Sex Matters. Another organisation the LGB Alliance are affiliated with is one called Sex Matters. Now, this organisation are pretty obviously against trans rights. Now, their website and Twitter both indicate that they have issues with recent adjustments to the gender reform bills in this country, with co-founder Naomi Cunningham stating, "The law can't change the material reality of sex. Pretending it can causes real harms and liabilities." Another co-founder, Emma Hilton, stated that the words male and female have a very clear biological meaning. They do not refer to social categories but to human anatomy. As I spoke about earlier on in this video, human anatomy is absolutely not a clear-cut way to determine someone's gender. There's one social media post made by Sex Matters which probably angered me the most. It was a video featuring several young people who had detransitioned. So they had once identified as transgender, they'd gotten various treatments ranging from hormones through surgeries, and then they decided that actually they were quite happy being their biological sex, so they detransitioned. Now, this is a sensitive topic. I am absolutely not here at all to diminish the pain and anguish felt by the people in that video. And everything that they've experienced is 100% valid. My issue here is with Sex Matters. It's my opinion that they've used and exploited these young people to further their own transphobic agenda, using the very popular tactic of fear-mongering. Of course, there are going to be people who regret their transition. There's people who regret all manner of medical treatments and procedures. One of the focuses of this video was the side effects that these people experience with regards to the hormone treatment and surgeries. Now, when someone chooses to take any drug, even very widely used ones such as paracetamol and alcohol, they're willingly predisposing themselves to the possibility of short or long-term side effects. This is by no means something which is limited to gender reassignment treatment, and to place such a focus on it is just irresponsible. I feel for these poor people. I mean, they've clearly been through a lot, both mentally and physically. Sex Matters should be ashamed of themselves for using them. Another thing Sex Matters have created which demonstrates their low intellect is a section of their website titled Schools and Safeguarding. It's basically an info page on sexual abuse and paedophiles. Yes, at least some of their information can be backed up. It is statistically likely for women to suffer more sexual abuse than men, and US statistics estimate that 1 in 5 women compared to 1 in 71 men will be raped. To round off this video, I'd just like to say that the gender critical movement is gaining more traction than ever before thanks to idiots like these. I mean, I'm seeing the phrase crop up everywhere from Twitter through Instagram, whereas before you kind of had to be in the right internet circles to keep seeing it. Now, there is so much more I could say on this topic, but as this is my first video back after a long hiatus, I thought it best not to create an absolute marathon. So, Peace out everyone, and enjoy the rest of Pride Month!